What's up? This is Mark Mate with Foosball today, and just coming to you today with a little instructional video on a roller. This is basically a basics kind of video. It's intended for people who don't shoot a roller but would like to. I'm hoping to show you some of the basics that'll help you figure out how to shoot a roller. It's a little bit tricky at first, but it's something that you should definitely try to shoot, and it'll be worth your while, so I hope you like the tutorial. So first, let's go through the basic mechanics of the roller. With the ball on your 3-bar, you're going to get the ball into a front pin position, like that. From there, you're going to put your hand on the actual handle, rock back and forth, and then move the ball over to where you want to shoot. Or on the push side, and of course there's also the middle. One thing we don't want to spend too much time on, but I just want to point out it's not actually an illegal spin. If you just spin the ball, that's illegal. And the rule is that you can't move the man more than 360 degrees before or after striking the ball. In the case of the roller, you'll see the man is right here. When you strike the ball, it doesn't actually come all the way up to that same point again. Therefore, before striking the ball is less than 360 degrees. When you follow through, the man moves up, but if it goes all the way around to 360 degrees, that would be illegal. But as long as you don't follow through past like here, it's still legal. Why I shoot a roller? I think it's pretty clear the roller is the most dominant shot on the professional foosball tour. Tony Spreedeman, best player in the world, he shoots the roller. Ryan Moore, he tripled the worlds this year, he shoots the roller. Rob Mares, Tommy Atkinson, all these guys shoot a roller. Some of them will shoot a pull and a roller. In fact, most of those guys will shoot both shots, but the roller is very important, and it's definitely a dominant shot in tournament foosball. So that's one reason. Another reason is the roller is, once you learn it, it's relatively easy to execute. It's not too hard on your arm. Like in a long tournament weekend scenario, you don't like burn out your arm as bad as you would with like a pull. So there's a lot of good reasons to shoot a roller. If you see people at lower divisions winning tournaments, a lot of times they're shooting a roller. They're probably either shooting a pull or a roller, but you'll see people go from very little foosball experience to winning rookie and amateur titles very quickly when they learn a roller up front and kind of start there. That's why I think it's your very best bet to start there and learn a roller first. So the first step to a successful roller is front pinning the ball. This can be a little bit tricky on its own, so it's good to learn a technique that makes it as easy as possible for you. And so by front pin, what I mean is you'll want to get the ball under the front toe of the man and basically pin it. When you look at where the ball's pinned, you really want it basically the end of the toe right dead center there, with just as much ball in front of and behind, so the ball just rolls really freely. If you look at the underside of the man, once you get close to the end of the man, it tapers slightly, and there's like a flat area, maybe a 1/4 of an inch wide, something like that, where where it turns a little bit right at the end of the man, and that's the part that you want to have pinned on the top of the ball there, because it makes for like a flat surface, and that allows you to smoothly rock back and forth without losing the ball. As far as how to get the ball into a front pin position, I think the easiest way is to tap the ball with one of the side men, basically just move this man back a bit so the ball just hits the corner of the man, and that'll make the ball slowly drift up and give you time to pop and catch it. So like this, watch. I'll do it again. So that gives you a lot of time to see the ball rolling up slowly to grab it. If you do something like this, where you just have the ball here and you try to just push it forward and then just grab it, you actually have to move pretty fast to like hit the ball forward and grab it, and you might miss it. So that's like the main reason why I don't think that's a very good strategy. Once you get a little bit more advanced, you can actually brush it with the side of this man and do something like this. But that's more advanced, and it's not something you should start out doing. As far as your stance, you just want to be in a comfortable stance, and you're gonna have your hand on the rod somewhere. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But have your hand on the rod, and you want to be able to comfortably basically reach all the way to both sides of the goal from that same position. You know what I mean? So if you have the ball placed in the middle, you need to be able to move all the way to this side easily and all the way to the pull side easily, because those are going to be your two long shots. For me, I like to lean over the table a little bit more, and that helps me reach the push side better. But it's really up to you. You just got to find something comfortable, but as long as you can easily hit both sides of the goal, that's key. And then once you shoot, you have to be able to easily react quickly. So just be in like a stable position where you can reach both sides of the goal and you're not like tipping over once you spin the handle and need to catch rebounds and stuff. Where to put your arm on the handle is interesting, and you have a lot of flexibility here. It kind of depends what you want to do. So once you have the ball front pinned, one thing you can do to kind of see, just to measure up where it lands, is imagine catching the rod. So let's say you want to catch the rod like this. Okay, so you just had my shot, boom, I caught it. If I want to catch it in this position, you can see where it would be on your arm by kind of rolling down. So I move over, roll down, and now you can see where that lands. It landed in a pretty normal spot, just a little bit above my wrist. So one more time, roll over, boom. And that's a pretty reasonable starting point for you when you shoot roller. The thing on this is that different people will shoot the roller different ways. It's pretty standard to have your hand basically perpendicular with the floor, just straight up and down. That's one way to do it. Some of the top guys, like Tony Friedman, will have their hand hooked way under the rod. And you could even have your hand more on kind of on top of the rod if that was comfortable for you. It really just depends what's most comfortable for you and helps you execute the shot. So you can play around with all those different options, from having your hand way on top of the rod, having your hand basically perpendicular with the floor, or maybe even hooked way under, like Tony and some of those guys. So in addition to the angle where you have your hand on the rod, is also the position. You can have it closer to your hand. You could potentially have the handle all the way up here, or you could have it farther down your arm. Something like this, way down your arm. That's definitely more of a personal preference thing. You can be successful any of those ways. For me personally, I like to have the handle, just like 1.5 inches, 2 inches below the heel of my hand. So somewhere like right around here, I guess that's about 1 inch. So that's where I like it to be comfortable. But it could be a little bit further down, it could be a little bit higher up. It really just depends what you like. When the rod is closer to the palm, to your actual hand, your skin's not going to move around as much, so you might feel like you have more control. When you have the rod higher up your wrist, you get more power because you're kind of ripping the rod farther. And for me, I find it easier to hit the long holes if I put the rod handle down my wrist a bit. But it really is up to you. When you have the handle down your wrist more, the skin flaps around a little bit more, so that might be kind of uncomfortable. It just really depends what you want to deal with. but these are all different options you have as far as putting the handle closer to your hand or further up your arm. Just play around with those and find something that works for you. So now we have the ball front pinned. We have our arm on the rod in a comfortable position. And the next thing typically you'll do in a roller is rock it. Just like that. So there's a couple different reasons to rock the ball. One is to kind of disguise your takeoff. It's like, which way am I going? This way, that way, this way, that way, this way, that way. And it kind of makes it harder for the goalie to track it. But to be honest, I don't know that that's like a legit reason to rock it. If you feel like you can just have the ball just sitting there and just explode to the hole, not like that, but in theory, if you're able to just have the ball pinned, if you could just have the ball pinned and then just go to the hole, maybe you don't need to do the rock. And there's been pro players that will shoot a roller like that, which is no rock. So that's an option for you as well. If you don't like the rock, if you don't feel like it's necessary, don't do it. But it is like a very standard way to shoot a roller. When you're gonna rock it or you're not gonna rock it, but the one thing that's gonna be consistent either way is you need to maintain downward pressure on the ball. This is probably the biggest key to shooting the roller out of anything that I'm gonna tell you today, is keep downward pressure on the ball. So what I mean by that is, you have your arm on the rod, but it's not just sitting there, it's actually, you're pushing down slightly on the rod. So my hand is here, I'm rotating the rod, I'm essentially rotating the rod clockwise, putting downward pressure on it with my arm. And when you shoot, that downward pressure maintains throughout while you're moving the ball. That is a huge reason why you'll see people try to shoot a roller and they'll just whiff, the ball won't be there, or they'll hit a 7. Basically, a lot of misexecutions are because you're not maintaining enough pressure down on the ball when you're moving the ball. And sometimes it's hard to tell as well, because you'll be rocking, you're thinking, cool, I got pressure down the ball, but once you move it to the side, it's just like a different motion, and it can just, if you're not really focusing on keeping pressure down on the ball, you might lift up and you won't even know it. But it'll manifest itself by misexecutions, either missing the ball, chipping the ball so it like 7's back, or just doesn't hit right. So what I recommend is, get your front pin, get it where you want to do it, you're doing the rock, you're pushing down, and then you basically just maintain that downward pressure throughout the shot. Once the ball comes off your man, that's basically when you're going to move into the second phase of the shot, which is spinning the ball. And what I think is a good thing to aim for are these dots on the table. So you see you have this row of 7 dots here. I think what's a good goal to aim for, as far as where you're going to release and shoot the ball, are between these last 2 dots. So any time from when the ball is at that second dot to where it gets to the last dot, these are all good times to shoot. So I would just try to kind of aim to hopefully release the ball and hit it somewhere in between those 2 dots. If you can do that, you're going to have a really solid roller. And personally, when I'm shooting it, I actually like to focus my eyes on those dots and basically just try to watch the ball come over and be in that area in between these 2 dots. When it gets there, just spin it. So here I'll give it a shot. So let's walk through the steps. Gonna front pin it. Kick it over. Front pin it. One thing I should have mentioned about front pinning it as well, sometimes you'll front pin the ball. Sometimes when you try to front pin the ball, you'll have the ball, like right now the ball is too far back. There's a trick to making the ball move, just kind of crawl forward, and that's just tapping it rapidly. See how the ball just crawled way forward? Let's see it again. So move the ball here. That's a terrible spot for roller. and now it's crawled forward to be in the right spot. If you get the ball too far forward, what you're gonna wanna do is, before losing it, you're gonna kinda wanna walk, oops. So right here, the ball is a little bit too far forward. So you're just gonna wanna kinda drag it back into your area and get it in the right spot. And then again, if it crawls too far back, just do the tap trick, and now it's back. So let's look at a push side roller. Same thing, you're going to get the ball front pinned. You want it front pinned right on that middle dot. Get your hand in position, parallel with the ground, or perpendicular to the ground. A little downward pressure. Start that rock, nice smooth rock. And we're gonna maintain pressure down through the rock and then release once we get to these two dots. The middle, pretty self-explanatory. But the one thing that's interesting about the middle is it can actually be kind of difficult to hit a perfect middle. So it's not something you want to completely neglect and just feel like anytime you want to pop a middle, it's just going to be super easy. It is something you need to practice. So you want to get your min set up where you have a nice little middle to hit. Go through the same steps. Get your hand in the right position, up and down. Pressure downward. Lean over the table properly. Start rocking. And then once it gets to the middle, just rip it. So there are a few different individual skills you need to practice when doing the roller. The first one is front pinning the ball. And that's something where if you're a newer player, you will lose it. So it's definitely good to keep practicing that because you don't want to try to front pin it and now it just squirts to the opposite goalie and you've lost that possession. You know, you already don't have a great roller. You don't need to just turn over the ball. So that's why it's a good idea to practice just front pinning the ball and not losing it. Also rocking the ball, you know, just learning how to rock the ball properly is something you want to be able to do because if you're losing the ball when rocking it, that's also a problem. You can rock about this far and you should be able to do it pretty much infinitely. So that's something you want to practice. Then obviously the actual shot execution, you'll need to practice. It is kind of a weird motion, so it might take you a little bit of time to get that right motion, but it's something where putting in the effort up front is really going to help your foosball game immensely. Learning the roller is the #1 thing you can do to improve your forward game. It's just like a light switch moment. When you spin that rod, smash the ball into the goal, you're going to feel awesome. The roller is a really powerful shot. It can take you all the way to being a pro master, and it'll certainly win you any beginner and rookie events. So you definitely want to learn the roller. Also, wraps. Wraps are 100% required for shooting a roller. You might see somebody shooting one with no wrap once in a while. Once you get really good at a roller, you know, you could kind of mess around and shoot one without a wrap in like a pickup game or, you know, just at like a bar or something like that. But for the most part, if you're shooting a roller, you really need that extra friction on the rod. It makes a big difference because obviously it's a very awkward motion to just move the rod with your hand. You need to be as tacky as possible. So I definitely recommend picking up some wraps and using those if you're going to shoot a roller. Some people will actually put like a wrap or some tape or something around their wrist. So, you know, do I think that's a good idea? I don't do it because I just personally don't like it, but I think there is definitely an advantage to having something wrapped around your wrist. A lot of people will use an actual wrap and just kind of wrap it around the wrist. I've done it with athletic tape before, and it does like a couple things. One is it gives you, if you use like a wrap or something sticky, now you have basically two sticky things. You have the handle sticky and your wrist is sticky. So you really get that great connection that's much better than just the wrap on your skin. The other thing it does is it stabilizes your wrist. So, which is arguably even more important, because you can basically put the handle further up your wrist. Your skin kind of moves around a lot there. So when you're rocking the roller and when you rip it, there's just some play there with your skin. If you wrap a piece of like athletic tape or a wrap around your wrist, this becomes much harder and you have like more control. So I think there's multiple reasons why having something around your wrist is actually really beneficial to shooting a roller. That being said, I'm not gonna do it. I don't like the way it looks. I already don't like the fact that I have to carry wraps around. I certainly don't want to carry wraps around, and now I have this like wrist wrap. You know, I'm trying to move more towards just walking up to a table and being able to play on it under any conditions without wraps, whatever, versus a person that needs wraps and I also need this wrist wrap. And you know, I don't want to play that game, but I think just from a value perspective, I do think there is value in wearing a wrist wrap in a competition foosball scenario. One other thing I wanted to go over with regards to push side and pull side and kind of keeping a consistent look about you when you're shooting these shots. When you get set up for a shot, you should look exactly the same whether you're going to shoot a push side or a pull side. So your stance should be the same, your arms should go on the rod the same way. You know, all that should be the same when you set up. And then from there, you can shoot a push side or a pull side. But if you set up slightly differently for one or the other, that's something your opponents can pick up on. For example, one of the most, one like common tell for a roller shooter is if their hand hooked way underneath, it's more likely that they're gonna hit a pull side. Because there's just something about hooking your hand under that makes it easier to just pull it and rip it. So that's just like a kind of a well-known tell. So if you have the same person that shoots a pull side and really wraps their hand under it, and now they're kind of putting their hand more up like this, it's more likely that this is going to be a push side, whereas this is going to be a pull side. That's why you need to be able to learn to hit both holes with the same kind of setup with your body so everything looks the same. As far as tells, another tell to discuss is rocking on the ball unevenly. When you rock, you kind of want to be dead center on the ball and just kind of go the same distance either way. If you get someone that's kind of rocking way off to, so like right now I'm way off to the left side of the ball. If you see something like that, a lot of times it means they're more likely to be going pull side. And the opposite is true as well. So you see somebody kind of really heavily rocking on the near side of the ball, they're probably gearing up to go push side because you're basically giving yourself more runway. You know, if you're rocking from all the way over here, that's a lot of ball to make sure you got a good motion of your ball. You know, it's easier if you kind of start out and you have this whole width of the ball to roll across. So people will kind of cheat and rock on one side of the ball, and that usually means they're going to the other side of the hole. So in this case, rocking on the left side of the ball, I'm probably going to go pull side. Rocking on the near side, on the right side of the ball, most likely you're going to go push side. Okay, so one final recap all the way through. You're going to get the ball in the 3. You're going to set it up in the front pin. And remember, I'm tapping it over, just rotating this guy back a bit so it chips off the man, rolls up here slowly so you can just have a nice easy grab and catch it. And start with the front pin, get your arms set up perfectly, perpendicular with the floor, or as you want. Downward pressure on the rod, start rocking back and forth. Once the ball moves in between these 2 dots, we're going to pull up and hit the shot. Push side, same thing. Get the ball set up. Rocking, downward pressure. I'm going to try to look to hit in between these 2 far dots. And that's it for the roller. When you're first learning the roller, obviously you're not gonna be able to hit a nice long push or pull like that. So what I recommend is start practicing by just putting a man directly in front of the ball and just try to hit pulls and pushes just around that man. Once you can do that consistently, then what we start doing is measuring like finger length shots. So what I mean by that is, if you take the man, pull it all the way to this side in this kind of reverse defense, you know, this is a dead man pull side. If you were to go all the way around here, this is what they call dead man. What I would call a 1 finger long would be if you take your finger and just move the bumper out the width of your finger. So it's about like 1 centimeter. You also do like 2 finger, which is almost a middle dot. So that's what I would recommend, is start out with the man right in the middle, then go to like 2 finger, 1 finger, you know, 2 centimeter, 1 centimeter, whatever, but just try to get a reasonable estimate. I think once you can take like your pinky and do a 1 finger long with that distance, that's about as far as you need to go. You really don't need to learn a dead bar. You just need to get out to that like 1 finger long on both sides. Then you're gonna have more than enough opportunity to score with a push, pull, and middle. So for practice, what I would recommend is whatever distance you're comfortable with, whether it's just having a man in the middle, whether it's like a one finger long on each side, basically just set that up and try to do, you know, 10 on each side, something like that. You know, just start there. You know, you're gonna run into some problems when shooting a roller. Like I said, a lot of them are due to not keeping enough pressure down on the rod. But if you have any kind of issues, please post your questions in the thread or hit me up on Facebook. I'm on there as Foosball Today. And, you know, I'd love to see you be able to hit a nice roller. If you're a person that's already shooting a pull or a push, you know, I still think there's a lot of value in learning a roller. You know, when you're shooting a roller, you're gonna kind of know how it feels, and you'll get a better perspective on blocking it than you would have in the past. You know, if you're shooting a push, I just don't think that's a good enough shot. I think you need to either shoot a pull or a roller. So that's a good reason to shoot a roller. And like I said, a lot of these top pro masters, they're shooting both. So, you know, it's just a good tool to have in the toolbox. If you're a beginner starting fresh, I would definitely recommend learning a roller as your very first shot if you're trying to focus on being a forward. If you're playing a lot of goalie, there is some benefit there learning a pull, just because you can shoot a pull from the 2-bar and you can shoot pull on the 3-bar. So that's kind of a good argument for shooting a pull earlier, but if you only care about your forward game and want to progress it as quickly as possible, I definitely think a roller is your best bet. That's it for today. I hope you liked the tutorial video. If you have any questions, please leave them in comments and I'll try to help. And have a great day.